let's get into this underdog segment. Let's talk about some bounce back candidates. Again, use that promo code RWNFL. But as is our brand, Mario, we got to start things off talking about Kyle Pitts. So his
Oh yeah.
ADP checks in at 64.2. So we're talking, a pretty significant drop off from where he was a year ago, where he was an early third round, late second type of guy. It's all well documented how the season went for Kyle Pitts, but I went ahead and looked back into his archives a little bit from this past season, and you know what, the actual advanced metrics all pointed to him performing extremely well, and maybe he was a little bit miscast. His A dot jumped basically 3 yards in an offense that had a worse downfield quarterback, so that wasn't going to work out extremely well. I think that partially informs why the catch rate dropped off so hard, but his catch rate was so good his first season, and then of course at Florida as well. So I expect some positive regression in that sense. And yeah, I mean, he was on the air yardage, on the targets per route run, all that good stuff. All of it is, exemplary. It didn't really translate into the fantasy production that we were chasing in 2022. And then obviously he gets hurt to end the season. Bada bing. Now he's someone that goes in the sixth round of drafts. So your thoughts on him and his ability to bounce back this upcoming season?
Well, the concerns about his production, I think, could be valid even if you think he's a really good player, because I definitely thought I expected Arthur Smith to do more with Pitts last year. Like, it's sometimes tough to tell from afar whether things were going on in the background. Like, I don't know if some of these games where Pitts only got 30 snaps and they were giving a bunch of snaps to Parker Hesse or whoever. I don't know if that was, sometimes stuff like that can happen because a guy has like a bad ankle and they're not telling anyone about it, something like that. So there could yet be some possible explanations for why Arthur Smith seemed to not be trying to use Pitts more, and it might not be, it might not be that Pitts couldn't do whatever it was. It might have been like he was dealing with an injury or something. But suffice to say, it was discouraging that Smith couldn't find a way to get more out of Pitts. The catch rate is the tell of the whole story here. Otherwise, I mean, I don't think it's asking much for Kyle Pitts to have a level of quarterback, passing play from a quarterback that could resemble 36-year-old Matt Ryan. Doesn't seem greedy to me to be asking for a quarterback who completes 67% of his passes at 7.1 yards per pass, while pushing for like 35 attempts a game. That's it, it's not average, it's below average, and that level of quarterback passing play was enough to get Kyle Pitts to 68 catches for 1,026 yards on 110 targets as a rookie, as one of the youngest rookies ever. He turned 21 in October of his rookie year when he did that. So that would have been a highly impressive rookie season, like the kind of data point that would put any tight end prospect on clear, 3-year window at most of Pro Bowl ascension. Like he'll get to Pro Bowl, All Pro maybe level by year 3 is what you would say, even if that player was 22, 23 years old as a rookie. Like Pat Fryermuth, for instance, turned 23 the October of his rookie year. Kyle Pitts won't turn 23 until October of this year. So people gotta. It's a tough one to keep perspective on because he's such a unique case. He's incomparable in all ways, including we don't know for sure what happens when a Kyle Pitts comes along. But as much as people are kind of like tilting their brains out over how much of a fantasy bust he was this year, and just this like despairing you see from people about how like he's not Megatron yet, that stuff. I mean, you can tell I'm not subscribing to it. I think it's hysterical, and as you said, the peripheral stats, even this year, with all the disappointments it was otherwise littered with, still say he was doing a good job. What it said additionally was like the offense was failing aside from that. And again, it's the catch rate. 47.5% of his targets caught. Like And even with that being the case, John, it seems the 1.72 yards per route run is still 86th percentile among tight ends. So think about that. His routes are 86th percentile yards per route, even while he's catching 47.5% of his targets. So what does that number go to if he's catching 56%, which is still below average, which is still something we would project Pitts to eventually get well north of? What does it look like if he's catching 65, 66? Is he 100th percentile, 99th percentile, and the highest of that figure range going back 20 years? Probably. Like that's the kind of upside that hinges here on Pitts just catching 15 more points of his catch rate, and obviously he's the kind of player profile to project for that. So it's not like I'm not saying like if he grows a foot. It's like if he just catches a catch percentage anywhere near the league average for tight ends, anywhere near what he had his rookie year, when again he didn't even turn 21 until October. Like we're throwing out all of this, I think, perfectly clear, broad data basically for a 6 week just bad memory. That would have easily faded over as little as like 2 or 3 good games. Like 2 or 3 good games for Pitts would change entirely his. So it's like he played 10 games. If he added 300 yards over 2 games, 3 games, like he's back on that track from before, and we know that he can do stuff like that because we've seen him do it.
Right.
So it comes down to the quarterback, and I don't know, that and Arthur Smith. I'm not as high. I'm not counting out Arthur Smith. I kind of can believe that he has some kind of explanation he could give. He's just he's not going to offer it publicly. But I am not as high on Smith as I was a year ago, and I don't know what to make of
Sure.
the quarterback situation. Like Ritter doesn't do it for me.
No, but they do have a ton of cap space. Maybe they'll be in the market to get an upgrade at quarterback. But I think bottom line here, I'm buying in on a bounce back for Pitts. Let's quickly move on to a couple other guys before we get on to the Super Bowl. Michael Pittman, obviously someone that was a third round pick this past year, fell under expectations. The I think Indianapolis, just as a whole, really just kind of wilted this past year. The quarterback situation was a mess. The offensive line took a step backwards. So, all of a sudden, Pittman, who, in his career year, 2021, his average depth of target was 9.5. That dropped by 2 full yards this past year. The catch rate obviously went up, drops went down. But, there was less kind of like bang for your buck on his per target basis that this past year. Do you think that could get better this year? And do you think that you would go in on him at his current ADP, which is 52?
Uh, I'm probably not interested at that ADP, but the disclaimer I have to offer is like I'm just lower on Pittman than I think most people are, so I'm not inclined. I'm not maybe the most like reliable narrator on him. I I don't have like uh, definitive proof to offer on this. This is just something that I think when I watched the Colts offense of the past 2 years. But I thought they were force feeding him. I thought more than almost any receiver I've seen in the league, they design plays that are specifically only designed to get the ball to him. And a lot of those plays were like yards after the catch setups, like screens over the middle of the field, and there's no one there. And it's like clearly, like almost anyone else in the Colts receiver room would be better for this rep than Pittman. And they're going with Pittman anyway. Like I just feel like a lot of his production was just a policy choice by the Colts rather than something that occurred organically because of like an offense just assembling and seeing where its usage goes best. It's like they would have gotten more yardage on some of those looks, giving it to Paris Campbell, who, if nothing else, is clearly a yards after the catch guy. And so when I see targets like that happening, I don't consider his target rate as legitimate as I do some other players. And particularly when this year, I know Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan happened, and it's pretty good case to make that Ryan was much worse for Pittman's interest. But I also think the usage going up, defense is keying on Pittman that much more. These are things that I would have predicted anyway, and I would have said like that's going to be bad for him. Like I don't think he has the talent to withstand that level of exposure. I think he's a wide receiver 2, and they're trying to use him like a wide receiver 1 that they chase the receiving title every year with. I don't think he has that in him. So it makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to me that he would struggle the way he did last year. I just might be like too. I might have expected it too much. Like I might be like too too low on Pittman anyway.